There we go.
Welcome to M1 Unit 2. Thank you so much for joining this session once again. To our currently online participants, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to be part of this session. For those that are watching the recording, thank you once again for taking time to watch the recording. Without wasting time, before I hand over to Dr. Gous, please note that our email address is i-set@unisa.ac.za. And if you do have questions, please feel free to raise your hand, or you can send in your questions on the chat box. Over to you, Dr. Gous. I can see your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. So again, once again, we are actually going to do some practical stuff. I'm just going to introduce the programming of how to make these robots move. And then we're going to, hopefully you have all downloaded either the EV3 Spike Prime, the EV3 Classroom software or the Spike Prime software. So you'll have some understanding of how the coding works. What we do need to do is kind of, there's a step between it. So you have a problem and you have a solution. And to get to the solution, you need to have programming. So you can have all these really cool robots, but unless they actually do something, then they don't do anything. So that's kind of a bit pointless. All right, so I've now spoken about the EV3 kit. So kind of just to get, so that was the RCX brain that we had, and then we moved on to the NXTs, which we started with, and then the EV3s, and of course now we're on to the Spike Primes. But again, a whole lot of different designs, one robotics kit, all the different designs, and you can build as many as you like. All right, so just by way, that is the one with the tractor tires, track tires, where you don't have wheels. All right, so if you have a EV3, so just before I carry on with programming languages, one of my biggest sadnesses is that that we again have matriculants leaving school who have not ever programmed, and so for me that's just not okay. Okay, so what you want to do, what we would really like to do, is to at least introduce them to a programming language, and there are many languages on a continuum, but and programming is actually essentially very abstract, and so that's part of the struggle, the abstractness and the complexity of programming. But what I have here, this is just icon based, so you would drag and drop these icons up to the canvas, and then that's your program, that's the start, that's the end, and you'll be able to read your program from left to right. Okay, so this is icon based programming language. This is the EV3 Lab version, a very easy kind of way to ease into programming. And what I have found over the years is that the learners that start here, we push the boundaries, make it more and more complex until they're programming with text-based programming, and nobody ever told them that programming was difficult. All right, so the EV3 Classroom, for those who are familiar with the Scratch programming, that's very much what it looks like. It's you drag and drop again, you drag and drop it, and you put it under, and you can see they all fit into each other like a jigsaw puzzle, and then so the actual programming language is less abstract, more concrete, very colorful. And what I have found now is that if learners have already been introduced to Scratch Junior and to Scratch, they kind of look at this and say, I can do this. All right, which is what we want. We want learners to be comfortable of programming. All right. And then, of course, then your programming language is Spike Prime. It's also just a Scratch program. Okay, so there we go. All right, so the introduction to the programming of a robot, what we do need to do with the robot is we have to make it move, okay? And we make a robot move for a wheeled robot. We make it move by making the wheels move, okay? And so there's a quantum leap of understanding. We're making the robots move. That's your output, all right? So it's connected to ports B and C. We had those wires. Tamela showed you those wires. That was the wires that connect the ports or the motors to the brain, okay? And so often I hold the robot like this and I say, okay, so if the robot is going forward and this is B and this is C to go forward, both wheels must move in the same direction. And then you have robot moving forward. So if positive is forward, well, then to reverse it negative, it must be negative. Okay, so that is kind of where we are. So if you look in your overview document, M1 Unit 2, you kind of ask the question, so what happens if a robot doesn't function correctly? I mean, where do we go? So we've got to go back to the code, because a robot will only do what it's coded to do, okay? The directions in which a wheeled robot can move, well, it can go forwards and backwards. And if you switch the one wheel off and you only turn this wheel, then it's going to naturally turn to the right. Or if you put this wheel off and you let this one turn, it's going to go to the left. Okay, making a robot go forward is positive, then negative is backwards. All right, and you can turn it to go forwards and backwards and then left and right, and so then you put all the little icons in a row. Okay, all right, and then so one of the biggest things that the learners need to understand, and I need a wheel here. So if you look at the wheel, and maybe I'll do this just now when I demonstrate, the wheel is one rotation, all right? So if you want to find out how far does it go in one rotation, I usually take a piece of ribbon and go around and then take that piece of ribbon and then measure that against a ruler and say, okay, so that is the distance it'll go in one rotation. So say that is 17 centimeters. In 2 rotations, it'll go 34 centimeters. If it goes forward one rotation, back one rotation, then the net distance traveled is 0. Okay, so there's the maths part of it. I know doing calculations with circumferences is kind of mind-blowing, but just a piece of ribbon on a ruler already puts it into perspective. It's not a thumbsuck, how far does a robot go in one rotation? It's actually a mathematical formula to figure out how far will the robot go. Okay, so with every unit there are objectives. So we need to be able to move the robot forward. We need to be able to move the robot forward and backward. And then what they will see is forward and backwards, there's some slipping, all right? So the robot doesn't go forward and backwards. It actually goes forward, and then you have to have a weight to avoid momentum, and then it comes back. And a really cool thing is if you put something on top of your robot and you go forwards, backwards, then that thing will go flying off, and that's just straightforward rotation, all right? And then moving one wheel, moving both wheels, and that's all the navigation. It's straightforward making the robot move. It's kind of when you start driving a car, you know, you've got to go forwards, you've got to go backwards, you've got to go around a corner, around this corner. And so there are programs. So you need, as part of your assessment, you need to be able to show me that you can program the robot to do at least some of these objectives. Okay, so here is what the code looks like. You'll see there's very different ways of here. So if you read this EV3 Lab version, it says it goes forward with a power 50. For 3 rotations. That's it. Okay, what I've got here is to reset the motors. It's just because there are 7 gears in the motors, and so you don't want the robot just to go forward. It's like ready, steady, go. All right, so you reset the motors before you start. Okay, so again here, this is now the Spike Prime version of it. So it goes forwards and it sets the motors to C and D. Sets C to 50% power and D to 50%. Well, now we've got C and D connected to the ports. And then we move forward for 3 rotations, and then we stop moving. And I've just noticed I need another brick underneath here. I'll tell you now where we're going. All right, this is the kind of the abbreviated version of this is this one. Set motors C and D, move 3 rotations at 50-50 power, stop moving. Okay. As long as your learners understand what they're doing, and you as the coach need to be able to quickly debug if there's a problem. All right, this is what I wanted to say. You have to start and end well. And the sooner the learners get or learn good programming practices, the better. And so I take this from Sylvia, which says this is the hamburger. All right, you've got a top and you've got a bottom. You've got to have the 2. Okay, and so you've got to put this at the bottom, make it nice and clean, and say that's the end of your program. Okay, when the program starts, when the program ends. Okay, so this was just another way of doing it, but you have to have a start and a stop underneath. Start and end well. You'll see also as you teach the learners programming, there are some principles that you need to really instill. Okay, for those who have not seen the programming canvas, it's kind of, this is the Spike. I think this is EV3 Classroom. It's got all the buttons down the side, so you select which you want. Then you take this, you drag and drop it over here. It clicks in there. At the top, you see for this one, the brain is connected. That's a touch sensor in port number 3, and that's a wheel in port number A, and that's a wheel in port number D. Right, that's a motor connected to it. And so you drag and drop it. If you don't like it anymore, you just drag and drop it. And I'm hoping that Tumelo or Casper will give us a demonstration quickly at the end of this presentation. All right. So this is just a convention. And I always say, if you stand behind the robot, if you're going to drive the robot, pretend you drive the robot, then B is on your left-hand side and C is on your right-hand side. It's a convention, and it helps when you have to debug code. All right, if you have everybody just doing whatever they want to do, it makes it very difficult to detect errors. So just to start with, the traction is in the front. So you see the tired robot, the wheels are in the front, and B is on your left and C is on your right. It's just kind of a convention. All right. So C and T must both rotate forward as positive, and then to go backwards, then they must both rotate backwards, and that's negative. All right. So you need to, and it's kind of just getting it, because we're gonna do more complex coding eventually. And what we want to do is just instill good programming habits when we start out. So the one is the reset button. And I will be honest with you, the reset button for the Spike Prime, I had to Google it, but it's a good kind of habit to have. All right. And then whenever you change direction, whether your robot changes direction, goes forward and goes backwards, or forward and around the corner, please put in a pause or a wait between icons. Okay. You normally do it for about 2 seconds initially, and then when you fine tune it, you can bring it down to 1 second. But it definitely leads to better accuracy. When we have bigger robots, accuracy counts all the way. All right. And so we want to have actually a good robot that's well charged. The battery must be well charged, that can pause between changing directions, so that reduces the effect of momentum. And the tires must be clean at all times. And so that is also one of the things I should have added in the building. When you build a robot, and I'm just looking at this, you can see the wheels are kind of dirty. That needs to be cleaned, because the impact of dust on excellent programming, and then if you have a tire that's dirty, it's just chaos. All right. Habits. You've got to save your programs as often as possible. Oh my word, the number of times I've been in classes with kids, and then we've got the robot program to just work properly, and they forgot to save, and it's just disaster. I would also encourage you to buy an external drive maybe, or just even a flash drive, and get the learners in the habit of copying a whole folder. All right, make it a folder that you copy over. Yeah, that's just a good habit to have. And then test your code regularly. I cringe when I see just one long piece of code, or one long piece of code. That's not okay. All right. You need to do little pieces, and then you test it. And if you test it, you put it into a structure. All right. You must have backups daily. Yeah, that's one of my little peeves. Every afternoon when you're finished, it's kind of, you need to have a checklist at the end of your class. So A, you clean up, B, you back up your programs, C, you switch off your laptops, and so pick up all the pieces, and so you'll need to have just a list, and give responsibility to everybody in the team. All right. And then comments. So often you've got learners who are coding on one day, and then the other ones are coding on the other day, and then they don't know what they're doing, so they just delete it. They delete all the code and start all over again, and that's just not okay. It doesn't build anything towards team building. Okay, there's a repetition there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so really, to make sure your code has comments and that the learners understand what they, please, I'm telling coaches, don't code. Your learners must do the coding, and they must be able to understand what they've done. All right, this is just on the lab, EV3 Lab. There's a difference where if you put both motors at 50, then both motors will go 50. If you put the steering, the move tank, and you put it on different powers, well, then the robot is naturally going to veer off to one side. Okay. I told you about the ports. Also on the EV3 at the bottom, you can see exactly what is actually connected. I showed you on the Spike Prime, you can see what is connected. And the EV3 port view, you can see there's a large motor, a medium motor, a large motor, a large motor. There's a touch sensor, reflected light, and a ultrasonic sensor. Okay, so you have a quick eye view. So if you see that the motors are not connected, well, then the robot programming is not going to work. That's just what it is. All right. So I'm gonna give you a demonstration, but I'm going to ask Tamelo and Casper to give the demonstration. But what is really important is that there are resources, and so the EV3 lessons have got a lot of extra resources. The Prime lessons for your Spike Prime. My favorite remains the Builder Dude 35, and this is a picture of Kyle here. He was a young boy in 2015 when he started it. He has got a really great collection of tutorials. And so when you're planning out your lessons with your class and you see that they need extra help with something, please consult him and see whether there's something that he can offer you then let's show the video also in class to all your learners. All right, so what we've got is we've got programming and we've got the robot. And what we're going to show you now is how to get the programming onto the robot and maybe test the robot. All right. So that is the end of my session on programming, and I'm going to.
So this is now this program here is called the Spike Prime. So for the big robots that are on here on this side, we always go to the Spike Prime on this side, not to the Spike Essential set. So we're just going to press here. Okay, all right, we don't have to, it will always show you when there is a new update for your programming or for your robots. Okay, so what we're going to have to do now is we're going to create a new project, but before we do, I just want to show you where you can find some of the building instructions. So we go here to units. You can just download when you start. You can see here that this is for grades 6 to 8, also, or most of these. And then you just download them. And then what will happen is it will download all these building instructions for all the robots that they have. For example, the driving base to the driving base 3 that has all the attachments. Each one of these has a different set and is used for something different, and so on. So what we're going to do is we want to go to home and we want to create a new project. So we want to create a word block. And then after that we go here. Okay. Then we always start by saying how big must the motors be? I mean set the movement of the motors. So let me just make this bigger. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first thing we do is we always set the movement of the motors to the two ports that we selected. The motors are plugged into. So this one will be A and B. Next, what we will do is we will set the rotation of how many centimeters are one of the wheels. So for the Spike Prime, the normal wheel that we'll always be using will always be 17.5 centimeters. That will be always your average. I'm going to average your default setting. And then we can start programming. These are your two basic and first programmings that you always have to use to initialize the programming. Then we start programming. First, we set the movement, so movement speed to 50%. Then we say move forward, not for 10 rotations because that is a very long distance. So I always say is move forward for 1 rotation, move. Then we just press here, just move, then change it to backwards. Then here we can just change it to, so what we can do here, you can press on rotations and we can change it to centimeters. So we say to it, go for 30 centimeters back. And what it will do is, because it now knows the wheel is 17.5, it does the calculations itself on how far it will go back. And then the one thing we still have to do in the end is we go to here to control, and then we press on stop, and we hamburger, and also exit and program. Not just all, but exit and exit the program. And this is how to program a robot to go forwards and to go backwards. Any questions?
I suppose the proof at Casper is you download it onto your robot and it actually makes it move, hey?
Unfortunately, this one can't, the laptop I'm on cannot connect to a robot, unfortunately.
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. I'll be on my other laptop tomorrow.
Okay. But are there any other specific questions for this Spike Prime? Let's see on the chat.
There are specific questions.
Yes.
So what happens because you have set your robot to move forward for 1 rotation and backwards for 30 centimeters? Will it still work?
Yes. So what will happen is it will go forward for 1 rotation. That is 17.5. And then what will happen is when it goes backwards to 30 centimeters, we always know it will it will go a little bit backward because sometimes the robot goes skew and then you think it will not come back to your base area. So the extra part here, the extra 12, the extra 12.5 centimeters is for that for that problem area that you always will have and you think you will have. That's why we increase the backwards by a little bit, by one rotation.
To get back to base. Yeah.
Yes.
We've got a question from Chizambana. She's asking, what is the significance of the colors?
All right. So the blue is for when we want to just use one motor. If we want to, for example, let me just put this one here. If we want to go forward, then turn right, and then let's say, for example, and then go one rotation back, and then by just using one motor, turning with one motor, whereas the pink is for using both motors. So you're using the two motors, not just one of the motors. And then the light, this I think it's purple, or I think it's purple. It's now when we want to make the brick, you make certain colors on the brick itself. So this is not programming that we usually do. It's just for something beautiful. So, okay. Next is the events. These ones are when you come into the M2, when we use more higher programming for the robot.
The sensors. Yeah, the sensors.
Yeah, this one is for when you want to start it at a specific timer. So, for example, after this long, after 10 seconds, start your program after we've been touched or the program has been started, or when the robot has shaken. If you shake the robot, then you must move, or so on and so forth. And then next will be your control functions. This one will be when you want to do one specific movement multiple times. For example, repeat the following function for 10 seconds, or for complete this 10 times. So it will go, if we include the repeat function here, it will go and it will turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left 10 times. Then it will come back to us. Yeah, and then the one that is the most important is a stop function on the bottom, and the second one, the wait function. Because it's like when we drive at a car, we can't just go from second gear to at the stop. We cannot pull away in the second gear. So that's why we have to wait for a second turn and just down gear. So yeah, we just add a second there, and yeah, those are your most important functions.
Thanks, Casper.
Yeah.
I think, Casper, also, if our participants just start programming, just start giving the programming and make it do something. When we had the workshop, the in-person workshop, it's just getting to test it out, to actually do something.
Yes, because trial and error, even in normal programming and in programming, trial and error is usually the best learner.
Yep,
that's the best way to learn with programming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with P. Moller about that. It's similar to Scratch's interface. What we found also is that learners who've done a little bit of Scratch in class immediately say, oh, we can do this, we know this. And so it's very encouraging to have kids who have done maybe Scratch Junior or Scratch. And then they kind of know, they already know. So that fear of programming is also eliminated. As Casper also said, we kind of go up a level in M2. We start with sensors, we start with decisions and looping. But for now, it's just navigation, forwards and backwards, go around a corner, turn it backwards. So, and that's just the fun part about it. Yeah, for now. All right.
And the easiest one, if you want to delete something, just take it out and then you just press, and then you just take it like this and delete.
Yep.
I see you've got a A question from Strauss Albertus saying that how far is C++ from the Python coding language?
So that one, it is what
How
happens
far is how far? What do you want to, I'm not sure how you want to do it.
I think it means Dr. Gous.
Yeah.
What are the main differences between C++ and Python programming?
I don't know. No.
C++ is much more hard coding that you we have to start something and you really have to program everything in you have literally have a long page of it, whereas Python is much more usable in the sense of you don't write as much programming code, if I can say it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my experience with programming with Python and with C++.
And just to go back a step, if you want to see how to convert your Scratch programming to Python code, there's that free downloadable GearsBot, and so you can code your little GearsBot in Python, in Scratch, and then you can see how it looks in Python. That's also an option, just to kind of share. But really, for now, I think the learner should really start with Scratch. Start with the less abstract. We'll get to text-based programming, we'll get to Python, but I don't think for our juniors, especially for primary school. I think for our primary school, let's focus on getting them really into the complexities of coding or programming. And then really getting competencies and enjoying the learning, and so then you have confidence, and then maybe we can move them over to Python. Okay. Right. I think it's a bit biased because I love coding, so Python I also enjoy. Jamela, what have you got to share?
I see.
Sorry, what are you sharing, Casper?
Okay. So the only thing I want to maybe show is if you wanted to go and just explore a little bit of Python programming with the Spike, you can use the previous app, the Lego Education Spike, to version 2, not the newest version, that is the version 3. It's the Spike Legacy. And what you can do is you can go here and you can create a Python file. And what will happen is on this side here, you will see, so for example, if you want to pair the motors, what is the code that you will be using, and what are the comments that they are explaining how must it be done. For example, move forward, and then a long explanation on what you need to add for each one of them. And here's an example of move the pair of motors for 2 centimeters and steer at 100% of power.
There we go.
So this is just something for everybody else, for some of you that are wondering how the Python looks like.
Yeah, it's thank you, Casper. It's just we want to encourage our learners to do programming, and rather let them have a whole lot of fun in Scratch, and then explore all the complex stuff. And then for those who really want to move on to Python, then they can go on to Python. Okay, I'm hoping that's answering everybody's question. Any other questions? Thanks, Casper, for that explanation.
Thank you, Dr. Gous. Over to you, Tamila.
So far, all the questions are being answered on the chat. I'm happy that the chat box is active. Thank you so much for that. And if you do have, and by the way, Casper, are you able to connect to the Bricklink Studio on your site?
I'll just open it right now.
All right. Just to show us some few demonstrations, because I saw earlier on the chat, one of the participants indicated to us asking how can we include the Spark Prime kit into the Bricklink Studio. So while Casper is busy on the site, if you have any other general questions related to this session, kindly please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we shall make sure that your questions are answered. Over to you, Manil Johannes. You can see your screen.
Thank you very much. So what we want to do is, if we want to import a Spike Prime, what we do is we create a new design from scratch. We go here on this side here where that it says insert. We press here. Usually when you start with the program, it will say main. If you install it from the first time, then all we do is we go to configure, and then we go, it will pop up this. It will show you all the type of palettes that you have at the moment on your side. So what we want to do is we want to go here to choose a way to add a new palette. Then we say import an official Lego set, and then the number for then we type in any Lego set kit that we can think of. For example, what was it again? Oh yeah. So the Lego Spike Prime would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not mistaken. And then here you go. It's the Spike Prime set. It will say how many parts are there, how many figurines are there, and how long ago was the set released. And what we do is we just import, and we'll import the whole set for us. This is just to show you if there were any problems with the uploading or the importing of your set. So usually these will be some of the cables that are not yet compatible with the system, but usually we don't you don't struggle with this part here. But otherwise, you just press OK, and then on your left-hand side, you will have all your equipment that you will need. For example, some of the blocks in your beams, your technical beams, and in your connectors, your axles, and so on and so forth, and your gears. And then at the bottom, you will have your electric motor, your rechargeable battery. So again, if it looks like this, it means you cannot place it there because it will collide with some of the parts that are there at the moment. So we can just place it here, and then also the brain, because we also need the brain needs a battery. So then we can do this with the arrow keys. All right. Any other questions?
One of the participants is asking whether are we able to use BrickLink Studio offline without internet?
Yes, so you can use it offline without internet. You usually only will need internet when you are downloading one of the sets, or if you you actually don't need internet the whole time. It's just when you are importing one of your palettes. So for example, if you already have, like me, I have my Spike Essential, my EV3 core set expansion, Spike Prime, and the Spike expansion set, and the NXT, I can run this entire program without going onto the internet. It's literally just that a little time that you need it to install it, and that's the only time you'll need your internet.
Casper, are you okay to share your building instructions that you have created in BrickLink?
Yes.
Okay, so just by way of kind of an announcement to the community, there are building instructions for particular robots. Casper has designed all the robots that we have designed over the years. He has designed the building instructions for that. So that is the USEC robots. And so what we're trying to encourage others to do is to go and do likewise. So if you build a really cool robot, share the design with us. This is not just about taking, this is about giving back. So there's the building instructions for, that's old Mozart.
Yeah, so this is the robot I just showed a few minutes ago. On this side, it will give you all the instructions on which pins that I use in which stage of the build. For example, all of these were in one stage. That was step 1. This was step 1. That was step 8. This is step 5. And you can even create your own instructions when you go to the instruction menu. So, okay, we know this. And then it will show you how the parts were connected at each step of the process.
Awesome.
Even a page, yeah, even a page design of how it must be, how must the people go and assemble the robot.
So just to add to Casper, he reverse engineered. Casper reverse engineered Mozart. We have the robot, and he then captured this for eternity. And so we have the building instructions for dear Mozart. But what we really want you as a community then to do is to say, if you design a really cool attachment, even just an attachment, share it with the community and say, this is a really cool attachment, and then get other learners to build as well. Whether you are building virtually or building to capture a physical attachment or a physical robot, it'll be really great to be able to share this within the community. Casper, is there a site where we can download BrickLink building instructions?
So it's usually what you do is you go and you just press into Google designs, and it will sometimes, the problem is when you go from the previous version, the digital designer, to the studio version, it gives you problems with the downloading. So for example, when you import the driving base or the droid bot for the EV3.
Yeah.
So what happens is it will go and actually move the motors around, and the design won't work. So usually, yeah, so I'm just seeing if I can see one of the examples of it, but otherwise, yeah, so I don't have the example of what happens usually, but what you can do is you can just go and type in to Google studio version XYZ, and then you can just build it from there, or import that design.
Okay, so maybe that's homework for tonight, is if you find, well, it's Valentine's Day, so if you've got nothing to do on Valentine's Day, but if you really want to go and find some building instructions, maybe go online, see if you can find some building instructions, and come back tomorrow and then share that. Casper, could that work?
Yes, so the one thing I did with the EV3 and the driving base, for example, the advanced driving base, because it's already designed and everything, all I did is I had the instructions on my right-hand side of the screen, and then the building on the left-hand side, because I wanted to make it into a version that we can use in, we can use it. So that's one way of doing it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Casper. Tamela, are there any other questions?
I see the chat is busy this side.
Okay.
Maybe we got a question which you answered. It was regarding building instructions for the BrickLink. And then we had a question from Nomusa saying, is there any catalog of the design robots that you can match when you build on BrickLink Studio? And then we have another comment and question from Mula saying that based on working with Python over the holidays, I feel the current grade 7s might be too unsure. At least my grade 7s are. I know we are supposed to start line coding in grade 7s, but as it is new to the syllabus, perhaps, is it a good idea to keep teaching them Scratch until they are ready to move on to Python, says Mula.
Okay, so I'm going to present an introduction to Python. I think it's next month, just to generally introduce the text and the format of Python. So I maybe join that first, and then we can make a decision. But it's good to introduce them to as much as possible. And I think Python using Anaconda software or the Anaconda environment is kind of an easier way to ease into Python programming. Okay.
Thank you. I see Odette mentioned that I don't have insect and replace tab. Where do I get that? I think she has to go to our last week's session as well, where Casper was showing more of the BrickLink Studio. That could also help. So please note that our sessions are recorded and are posted on our YouTube page. And then I see Andrea says, you are awesome. I don't know whether it's me or Dr. Hose or Casper.
All of us.
And then I see that Strauss says that there are also instructions on the Spark Prime if you want to play around with basic things. Thank you for that. And then I see Chizambana says, are there known community names to share? I don't know which one specifically she indicating. I see Smith is greeting us. And then Dr. Hoos is mentioning that she will present an introduction Python programming in the month of March. Thank you so much, Andrea. Otherwise, we don't have any questions. If we do have questions on the lobby, perhaps if you want to raise your hand or perhaps unmute yourself, this is an opportunity before we sign out and you guys can enjoy your day. Any other questions? Oh, yes. We have a question from Odette. Go ahead.
Hi, Jamila.
How's it?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yes, I also went through the last week recordings, so it's the same thing. It's like his studio already has the insert tab and replace, but the one I've downloaded, it doesn't have. It only have the untitled model, so I don't know how to get that tab in order to add the spike.
Are you currently using your laptop as we speak right now so that you can share your screen?
Oh, I'm using my laptop for the demonstration, but I'm using my phone for the online learning.
Perhaps do you mind us setting up a private Teams meeting so that we can guide you?
Okay, no problem.
All right. And unless Casper wants to answer the question as well, just to add on it.
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
Oh, so the question was that she cannot insert, and the replace button is not available on the site.
Okay, so sometimes I think that it is a problem. I don't know if that is a problem. So usually you just have to first go into the program, create a new program from scratch, and then okay, so create. Let me see if that's, I'll see
Or
if
perhaps
I'll check if I'll just give it some time. I'll find out if there is a problem with that one.
or perhaps it might want you to update your current studio, software, perhaps.
Yes.
But if that was the question or that, and you feel like you're not answered, please send us an email. And then on your subject line, just write studio help or inquiry, then we can take it further. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Any other questions from our online participants? Please feel free to unmute yourselves. Dr. Hoos is here, Gavelo is here, as well as Casper. Yes? Oh, Dr. Hoos, you want to say something?
No, I'm just inspired by all the questions. It's really cool to have such a participating community. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, as I've indicated on the previous session here, this is the UNISA Science Engagement Center. For those of you who would like to make use of our robotics kits, you can send us an email. Like I said, for those that are based in Gauteng, next to the City of Gold, Johannesburg, we are based in Roodepoort. It's a science campus, UNISA. So if you'd like to complete your MOOCs, for example, your M1, 2, 3, and 4, and you feel like you really are in need of completing your assessments, please send us an email requesting to come. I also know that there are also those short learning program students who are having due dates on next Monday. They'll be coming tomorrow to also complete some of their assignments using the robotics kits. So we are a library, in short, a library of robotics. So feel free to come, make use of the robotic kit. We'll give you a nice space for you to be there on your own. And yeah, and we'll have a gift for you as well. I see you've got Odette, is that an old hand or you still have another question? Dr. Hoos, regarding the
Yeah.
loan kits, I see we've got a question here from Hendrik Strauss regarding loan kits, whether are they available and when is the dates opening and application forms and things like that.
Okay, so it is available. There are, but it's on there's a link that you need to apply for, and the team is currently busy allocating kits, and we will carry on allocating until we run out of equipment. The goal is, though, that you use it just to kickstart your robotics and that you eventually buy your own robotics kit, and then we reallocate it. So we've already got, I think, 5 or 6 schools already they're flying, and so they've got their own robotics kits. The stuff is coming back in again. We are just checking it and we're sending it out. So we keep the link open, and as long as there are kits, we allocate. So I think we're doing another round of allocations this weekend, but as long as your name is on the list, let's see what we can do. All right.
All right.
Excellent.
So before we sign out, I think from now on, this is how it's going to be like. I'll have announcements. So our announcement is that next week we'll be at Walter Sisulu Environmental Education Center, which is based in Pretoria, Mamelodi. So we are there on the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd. So if you are interested, please let us know. You can send us an email, or you can just pop up just to greet us. And this will be a benefit as well for those students that are based in Pretoria, perhaps, and you can't come to Florida. You can also go that side as well, so that you can make use of the robotics kits. Another announcement that I have is that from the 27th up until the 4th of March, right?
28. What for?
The KZN, yes.
KZN Regional is the 28th of February and the 1st and 2nd. We are at the Pietermaritzburg Regional Office, UNISA Regional Office. That should hopefully be finalized tomorrow. And then we have on the 4th of March, somewhere in Impangeni, but we will post it all. We'll send it out. We've got a robotics competition with 12 schools in KZN, which is really exciting. Each school has 2 teams, so we've got 24 schools competing. And we'd love to have you there. And if you feel that you'd like to volunteer as a judge or a referee, it'd be great to have you with us. All right.
Yes. So basically, we are there from the 28th up until the 4th.
Yeah.
So, but it's in different sections. So the first part is that 28, 29, the first.
28, 1 and 2.
Oh, sorry. It's February. Skis. 28, 1 and 2, we are at KZN Pietermaritzburg, the UNISA Regional Center. So if you are based around that center, please let us know via email or just come and pop up. And perhaps if you are registered for the short courses, feel free to also come so that, or send us an email indicating that you are one of the students that are based that side so that we can allocate a robotics kit. While we are busy on this side, you can be busy with your assignments. So you see, we can kill too many birds with one stone. That's an option for you guys at the KZN. Another option is that for those who are at the Richards Bay is at Impangeni, ne?
Yeah, Impangeni.
Yes.
We've got the competitions in Impangeni somewhere. Yeah.
Yes. And then for those who'd like to get that experience of being a judge or refereeing or just to come and observe, feel free to come as well. You can also let us know via email asking for further details, and then we'll let you know. But we'll keep on giving you updates as the sessions go. And then I've posted a link for the question and answer sessions for Fridays. Please feel free to join there. This Friday I'll certainly be there, and it will be nice. Before we close off, I see we've got some few more questions. Henrik says we'll buy a kit as soon as possible, as soon as it's available. Looking at the second-hand EV3 also, where can I get the link? Perhaps one of the participants here will ensure that you get one. But I don't think people are selling the second-hand. It's on demand. It's really on demand. And I see Dwight says, I also struggled to find insert because my building palette was in horizontal mode, which placed insert at the bottom. I changed to vertical and it looked like the example shown. So Odette, you can check out on the chat there. I see there's a picture from Detroit. Thank you so much for that. I love this chat, how it's going. And then Chazimbana says, thanks for the session. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. You too as well. We also have a question from Jeanette says, please let me know of Pretoria visit. We just have let you know. So you are the one who's supposed to send us an email. Like I've mentioned, the Pretoria visit will be at Walter Sisulu Environmental Education Center happening on the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd. Send us an email on I-SET-unisa.ac.za. This is the session. This is where we come to the end of the session, Dr. Khos. Otherwise, if you have any other things to say, we are done. I enjoyed the session. They enjoyed the session. Thank you to you and Caspar and to our colleagues as well.
That's a marathon session. So thank you very much. And I think that the proof is in getting these robots to behave when you program them. So maybe tomorrow we'll get these robots to move around. We'll do some programming as well. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much,
team.
ladies and gents.
Thank you. Casper.